just thought, wow, this is a day. This is a day.
It certainly is. It's beautiful.
It's a beautiful
out there.
day, and it's not too hot, not too cold. It's just right. It's just like the Three Little Bears. It's a perfect day.
It's perfect temperature, that's for sure.
Well, let's get on with it. This is the Garden Show, and we've got the tips and plants of the week.
You betcha.
Well, my tip of the week is I'm noticing some mildew showing up on a few of our roses.
Yeah.
And it's mildew month, and I think some copper spray is in order. You know, we used to use a product called Funginex. It's not on the market anymore. That was a pretty good product. It was systemic fungicide. But copper does work at this time of year. When I was at Byland's, I would use copper. It's definitely, as we've said before, it's very much better as a preventative than it is to solve the problem. However, I found that out of all the products you can use, copper seems to suppress the mildew a little better even after the fact. But, you know, you got it. Let's little copper. Plant of the week is my Magnolia Edith Bogue, my Magnolia grandiflora Edith Bogue. It's blooming. It's got a first bloom.
All right.
Oh,
what a gorgeous plant
exciting.
that is.
Pretty exciting.
Very nice. All right, I also have a tip and a plant this week, and my tip of the week is that the duration of your irrigation system, so how long it runs, equals the depth of watering. So if it runs just the right amount, you'd put about a half an inch of water on your lawn, and that would soak in about 4 or 5 inches deep, and that would give you a really good watering. That's sort of a target amount, but there's no point in just leaving it running and running and running. Excessive run time is not good. It's a waste of water, but also too light of a run time is also a waste of water because it doesn't soak in. All right, I also have a plant this week, and my plant of the week is a Geranium magnificum, which is one of the most beautiful of the perennial geranium category. It has lovely purple flowers, about the size of a quarter, maybe a little bigger, maybe the size of a loonie, and just a lovely plant. It blooms right through the month of June, and it's just one of my favorite plants. So watch for either a video or something coming up. I've got a little bit of video on that one I'm going to put up on Facebook and or Instagram, and maybe even a little bit of YouTube videos. So check Grower Coach on YouTube. That's my tips and plants for this week.
Well, Ken, those are great tips as usual. And another great thing, a great person I'm proud to know, as I'm proud to know you, proud to know Charlie Hodge. I went and to his book presentation last week after the garden show at Mosaic, and I'm telling you, what a giant of a man. Mm-hmm. Diminutive. He's like me. We're little guys, but giant. You know, he's not kidding when he said it took a long time to write this book and how much effort it took. Mm-hmm. I'm just partway into it now. I won't divulge anything, but I'm just going to say that it's a very interesting read, and he's really put a lot of thought into it. The Lost Souls of Lakewood, and it's all about the Blaylock's mansion in the Kootenays, and you're very familiar with that, Ken.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, one of my good buddies used to be the gardener there for years and years and years, and it was quite the garden. That place had literally an authentic botanical garden, like English botanical garden, that was, I'm not sure how old it was, but it looked like it was about 100 years old. You know some of the little dwarf conifers that you see, the little ones? Mm-hmm. Well, they were about 12, 14 feet tall. So they were old plants.
Old dwarfs.
Yeah, they only grow a half an inch a year. But they had a lot of great conifers. It was a beautiful garden and sort of rolling hills, and it was quite something. And I was just completely blown away to know I'd driven past there so many times and not gone into the back, where the garden was. Not sure if the garden's still there or not, because it's been under several different owners, but pretty cool spot, and what a lovely mansion it is. It's a beautiful building.
Well, if you read Charlie's book, you'll see a whole new side of that mansion. Ooh. And he's done a lot of work on it, and with Dan McGauley, who unfortunately just passed away a short time ago before the book launch. But Charlie, that was just it's really cool what's going on there. So if you have a chance to come down to Mosaic Books and pick up a copy of Lost Souls of Lakewood, I think you'd be very, very happy about it. And on that note, we got to go to the phone lines. We got Ariel joining us again this morning. First caller, Ariel.
Yep, the early bird gets the worm, right?
Yeah, you betcha.
So I have, a couple of really good roses. And of course, my Just Joey died because the deer or whatever that was that ate it. But I have a floribunda out there that has become really quite the showy piece of work. And it gets so many blossoms, on the ends. And what happens is I go out in the morning, especially after they've watered around here, and they're bent. They bend. They bend at the end, towards the end.
Could be just the weight of the water, Ariel.
Yeah, okay. Well, I was wondering if, I thought about that. And I was wondering if perhaps there was something maybe that I'm not feeding them.
They're getting lots of light, or is it in a shadier spot?
Oh, no, totally. They're total sun all day long.
Lots of light, okay. Well, floribundas, many of them have very clusters of smaller blossoms, and not necessarily smaller blossoms, but sometimes if they have larger blossoms and there's clusters of them, the weight of that overhead water would definitely cause them to nod down a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I also find sometimes a pruning technique affects the strength of those stems. And so typical of some roses, we cut them very hard in the springtime. And often the shorter we cut them, the stronger the stems come back.
Oh, and well, when you say short, Dawn, sorry, Ken. When you say short, what do you mean? Do you mean 1 inch, 2 inches, 5 inches? What?
I'm thinking about 6 to 8 inches is sort of typical. Tall.
I hadn't done that.
Yeah, and the stem that it comes from equates to the thickness of the shoot that you get in response. So what I do when I prune a rose is I go through and I thin out. I cut the whole thing down to about a foot tall to start with. So I just chop it straight across, and then I'll go down and I'll go inside of it and I'll snip out all the little stuff. Anything that's smaller than say 1/4 of an inch or smaller, I just remove it completely. And I'm looking for bigger stems that are sort of that 1/2 inch or 3/4 of an inch in diameter. And those stems are going to produce stronger canes, right?
And you're going to do this, Okay, so do you do a winter pruning on them?
In the springtime. I always wait for the buds to push a little so I can see which branches are alive and which ones are dead. And
so in other words, leave it right alone. After it's bloomed and it's done its thing, it goes through winter, and then in the spring, that's when you do it.
Yeah, exactly. Only because you never know what's going to die off over winter. And I always find that plants, especially woody plants, they tend to store a lot of sugars and even chlorophyll and whatnot. They store in the stems themselves. And then as spring approaches, those sugars and even some chlorophyll will actually migrate towards the buds, and it'll start to build up around where those buds are, getting ready to move back into the leaves. So they sort of recycle some of those materials. And so I let that happen, and then as the buds are pushing, I can also look and see, there's some nice red buds pushing out, and which direction are they pointing? It gives me a clue as to maybe where I'm going to cut the rose. There's a lot of different things I'm thinking about when I'm pruning them, and I want to see if the bud is pointing away from the center of the plant, it's likely going to give me a little bit more of a rounded shape to the plant rather than, say, a bud that's pointing to the inside of the plant, which is going to make the thing grow up through the center. So I kind of shape the plant with that final pruning. Clip out the small stuff, save my biggest, nicest canes, and if I have canes that are really old and woody, then I cut those right down to about 1 inch tall and allow them to usually shoot up again and send out some new canes for the future.
Wow, good grief. And just when I thought I knew everything about pruning roses.
Ken wrote the book.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Have a wonderful day.
You as well, Ariel.
Too.
Thanks
Good
for the
luck
call.
With that one. Yeah.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye. Yeah.
Well, Ken, I have harvested some warb potatoes.
Oh,
already.
you have. How big are they?
Oh, like that?
So, what, 2 inches, 2.5?
Yeah. They're
2.5 inches
they're
across?
nice. They're nice, yeah.
Tonight?
5 centimeters, 6 centimeters.
Okay. Yeah. Tonight, I harvest my Pontiacs. The baby, they should be small. I expect them to be about the same size, about 2 to 2.5 inches in diameter. I harvest them at 4 p.m. and consume them at 5 p.m.
So, yeah, and that's the best thing, and right from the garden. But hey, so what's for dinner?
Potatoes.
Okay. Potatoes.
New potatoes. Oh, that's my favorite thing. They just melt.
Oh, potatoes are great. They're great food. There's been societies and countries that lived on potatoes, Irish people. But my doctor years ago, we were talking about foods and good foods and not so good foods because I was trying to watch my weight as I've done all my life. And we were talking about French fries. And he says, what a terrible thing to do to a really good food.
Yeah, but it's so good.
Yeah, I know. French fries. Well, there you go. Good. 250-862-2525 to get through to Ken and I today. It's a beautiful Saturday morning. It's gardening time, folks. It's time to get out there in the garden and do your thing. And we are here to answer your gardening questions, and we'll be back with more. AM 1150 Garden. We are back with you, and at the moment, there are no callers on the line. Oh, there are. There's a caller. I better just check that out because, that's what we do on the Garden Show. We check things out. And we got Angie joining us. Good morning, Angie.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I was wondering, why do beets bolt instead of putting, going down? They're bolting, and they're just been planted.
Have you got? Is it in a raised bed or is it?
No.
No, it's right in the ground, eh?
Yep.
Well, Ken's got to answer this one then because I haven't got an answer.
Well, we know that usually it's high heat and high temperatures that cause plants to trigger and bolt, but this sounds like a bit of a weird situation because. Typically we only had that about 5 days of hot weather, and it was extremely hot. It was enough to trigger some plants. But here's a question for you: is do you have any other types of plants like, let's say, lettuce or cilantro or any of these other sort of leafy plants, and are they going to seed? Are they bolting?
No.
You don't have them, or you do?
We have them, but they're not bolting.
Aha. So it's a varietal thing then. What I would do is, you'd have to be super patient with these beets because they may not produce anything underneath. But I think there's something wrong with that particular variety and not 100% sure what it is. But I would say go ahead and seed some more beets. And if what I would do is I probably wouldn't reuse the same variety. I would try something slightly different. Is this a variety that you've used in the past?
Yes.
Okay, and you had good success before?
Right.
Okay, so let's get them a new seeding going on in the very next patch that you have that comes available and reseed the bunch in a separate location, in a different location. Because, again, there's something has stressed out those beets, and it's just they're not performing at all the way they're supposed to. So it could have been that hot spell. It's not usually, extreme drought could possibly cause that problem, but I don't,
but
usually
even the one that we've seeded now seem to be, just very little, and they're bolting instead of going down.
And did you buy that seed or did you save it? You did, yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's a bad batch of seed. The varietal thing, even though it's got a good name on the tag, the question is what's wrong with the seed? Mm-hmm. So, again, I always do trials, and I would say go and buy a different beet that's sort of similar and try it in a different spot and just see what happens. Because if you've got other plants in the garden that are not, bolting, like I've got cilantro and it's not going to seed. And that just tells you, like, cilantro is the first thing to go that bolts, right? So what I do is I use those other indicator plants, so lettuce or spinach or any of these plants to see if any of those start to go to seed. But beets generally don't. They're usually a little harder to deal with. So it's possible that they might have got a bad batch of seed. And that
you mean a bad seed?
Yeah. Yeah. It's happened before. It wouldn't be the first time.
Yeah, genetics.
Yeah.
Another variety, go out and buy another pack of seeds, different variety, perhaps even a different company, and try those. As Ken said, it's a little bit like stabbing in the dark, but that's kind of,
yep. And that'll tell you right away what's going on because likely it is just the seed.
Got to figure out
unfortunately.
whether it's the seed, what you've just planted, or whether it's the environment or something in between. Okay.
Good. Thank you very much.
Okay, dear.
Okay,
Thank
good
you for
luck.
the call. We appreciate it.
Yeah, and let
Bye.
us know. That'd be really interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for calling. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Ken, I got an email the other day.
Yeah.
I've been talking about slowing up a bit and not doing so much work and using the R word, a bit retirement. I don't like that word, but backing off a bit. I use the B word, backing off.
Yep.
Anyway, I got this email. It says it's from Joseph Schwartz. It says, "Dear Burnett, I am Mr. Joseph Schwartz, account manager to A.C. Burnett, who was a contractor in South Africa. On the 20th of February 2016, my client was involved in a boat accident in Durban during a boat cruise with some of his friend. He had earlier lost his wife during childbirth and never remarried. Since then, I have been made several inquiries here to locate any of my client's extended relatives. This has also proved unsuccessful. After these unsuccessful attempts, I decided to search through his name, which motivated me to contact you to locate any member of his family. Hence, I contacted you. He has on hand for me $17,300,000 United States dollar left behind by my client before it gets confiscated or declared or unserviceable. Ken, I'm so excited. I'm going to share it with you.
Yeah. Hey, that sounds great. Yeah. Let's, hey, we can go on a cruise.
I mention that only because I don't know about you, but I get phone calls from the IRA, the CRA,
The world is out to get you over the internet these days. Even though the internet's quite safe and it's quite easy to do, you just got to look at it for what it is, and that there's people all over the world who just love to get your money out of your hands or out of your credit card. It's different. If you go onto a site, a legitimate site, and one of the stores, and you buy something, there's nothing wrong with that, and it's a straight transaction, and often the credit card companies guarantee those purchases. But when somebody comes to you over the internet, you got to watch it.
It's funny to me. It's a joke, but people get sucked in.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I remember years ago on our fax machine back in about 1980, 81, early 80s.
Yep.
Get this fax from this Sultan of Arabia or something that had the same kind of idea that I have, that we have been chosen because we've got a foreign account and blah, blah. And I took it to Bev Hadley, one of my mentors. I said, Bev, is this real? And he says, Don, don't touch that with a 10-foot pole.
Yep.
He said, just let sleeping dogs lie.
Yep.
He said, it's nothing.
Delete
and that
it
was the
and
first
forget
one.
about it.
It's the first one we ever got. And Al and I were actually quite excited.
Yeah.
It was the first time we'd ever seen something like that. And we thought, oh, man, we've been chosen. Nope. Sorry.
Well, you were chosen, all right.
Yeah. Anyway, I just thought I'd let people know that just don't listen to that stuff. And,
exactly.
I got one the other day. He says, you have won the lottery. Are you willing to accept the lottery? And I said, well, yeah, right. Just unbelievable. Yeah. Anyway. But, I guess segueing into what's that got to do with gardening? Well, you can see an awful lot of stuff on the internet that is just as ridiculous when it comes to gardening advice and people telling you what to do and where to, So that's, I've always I certainly love hearing from homeowners and just regular gardeners passing information back and forth and everything. Yep. But if you're really looking for the nitty-gritty and wanting to know science and studies and what the university sites are very good. Yep.
They have many studies on many, many different, especially food crops. They're really, they spend a lot of time, a lot of money on studying food crops. So it, on anything, the government sites are usually really good as well. BC government. On pest and disease and feeding, especially, again, food crops. They don't mind spending money on food crops, but like ornamentals, it's a little harder to do. So
Well,
you have to find those specialty botanical gardens and things that do studies.
That, but also ISA, International Society of Arboriculture, is a great site to go to get information on tree studies. Because it does evolve, I mean, we listened we talk about Dr. Alex Shigo, who spent his whole life studying trees and really brought arboriculture up to date and discovered things that we didn't know about how disease affects trees and what the tree does to ward it off and to, basically cover it up. It's very, very interesting. But I'm just saying, just be careful what you read and what you absorb, because not everything on the internet is true, and it's certainly not true when the CRA calls you and says that we are going to go to jail if we don't phone them back. And, CRA would never call you. They would never, ever call you. They, if they want to get you, they'll send somebody to your door.
Yeah, that's right. And they would, for sure.
That's right.
That's what they do.
250-862-2525, and we're not going to, give you any guff here. We give you the real goods here on the Garden Show. And if we can't, we look for it. And we also love to hear your input, because you've been gardening. A lot of you folks out there have been gardening a long time. And we learn from each other. I've learned so much from Ken over the years, and I think vice versa. And
Absolutely.
we share that knowledge and respect each other for that. But anything Ken tells me, I make sure I research it before I actually put it into practice. Just kidding.
And then you find out, he must have researched this before.
Yeah, right. That's right.
Yeah,
anyway, we're going to have to take a short break here. We do invite your calls. We love to hear from you at 250-862-2525 to get through to us. We'll be back with more AM 1150 Garden. Ken and I were just talking music. That's one of our sidelines is music. We love music, and we love our history of music.
It's more a history.
It's the history of music for Ken and I, yeah. But no, one of these days, Ken, we'll get together and we'll play some music again. We do have Dan Bruce on the line, and last week we were kind of ran out of time, Dan. We are so sorry about that, but I'll tell you what, the show must go on, and you're back again this week. Good morning.
Good morning. Yes, I think I am back.
And I just want to say, happy belated birthday. I was there at your birthday. You've joined me in my world now. You're in my world, okay? A little late coming, but you're in my world now.
Yes, I thought there was a problem. Now I know what it is.
Okay.
Well, you'll have to wait a long time to get any history of music from me, because I am tone deaf.
Can't carry time in a bucket, can you?
No, that's not happening. However, James Cameron Dunn Waters, who founded Fintry, was into a number of things, but right throughout his career, he was really interested in agriculture. And he certainly was involved with it in Scotland and in England. And Fintry, as founded here, was essentially a mixed farm, livestock and growing products. So I am proposing to set up a series of lectures in the fall for the Society for Learning in Retirement. And the series is called O. Henry. And you might wonder why I've chosen the name of a chocolate bar.
Or a peach.
One of the reasons is that I like O. Henry bars. But this series of lectures is to celebrate and highlight the incredible debt that the world owes to Aboriginal American agriculture. And by Aboriginal American, I mean the inhabitants of North, Central, and South America who were involved in agriculture long before the Europeans arrived. I'm going to take people on a mental walk through the grocery store aisles and consider what they would look like if it had not been for Aboriginal American agriculture.
Interesting.
The food is one thing. The medicine is another. And there are other aspects of it that perhaps most people nowadays just don't stop to think about. At Fintry, we are honoring our Aboriginal peoples with a special plaque that is to be mounted on a stone monument, acknowledging and highlighting the fact that Fintry occupies part of the traditional territory of the Silix Nation.
Cool.
And there will be an unveiling of that plaque at some time in the not too distant future.
Interesting.
Anyway, just to give a foretaste of this, and I'm proposing for the next few weeks to get into this in more detail, but consider the world without tomatoes, without corn.
What about chocolate?
Well, you can't have an O. Henry bar without chocolate and peanuts, both of which...
Many people love chocolate.
Well, I have heard it said that 9 out of 10 people like chocolate, and 1 out of 10 people is a liar.
That's good.
Yep.
So, no chocolate, no peanuts, no tomatoes, no potatoes.
Really? No potatoes?
No potatoes.
That's a native, like a indigenous plant to North America.
No, I'm talking about North America, Middle America, and South America.
Okay.
South America.
The Western Hemisphere.
Right.
So, without the agricultural expertise of the Peruvians, no potatoes. No mashed potatoes, no roast potatoes.
No French fries.
How about French fries?
No French fries.
Oh, man.
Ooh.
That's harsh.
Well, this is really important. You know, Dan, it really is important. I mean, we don't sort of give credit where credit's due. We're always talking about, oh, yeah, we came over and we made everything better over here. You know, the fact is a lot of stuff was pretty good before the Europeans got here.
Well, that is certainly true. And also consider one of the nastier diseases that's going around, besides which COVID is a minor player, malaria. And quinine was the answer. Again, one of the great gifts that Peru gave to the world.
Wow. Wow.
Fascinating.
When the Spanish arrived in Mexico, they were amazed. They couldn't believe their eyes when the native people were playing the ball game, and they had a ball that bounced.
Rubber. Oh, my goodness.
The Spanish had never seen or even conceived of such a thing, as the conquistadors ran to catch this thing that kept jumping around of its own accord.
Isn't that interesting? Wow. rubber.
Mm-hmm.
So, as I said, I've been thinking of devoting the next few Saturdays to considering this important issue.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Dan, I'm glad you got your thinking cap on, and we got that sort of on the road, because it's very interesting, and it's something, we just are a little bit oblivious to sometimes.
Yes. The Aztec nobility in Tenochtitlan, which is now Mexico City, had to deal with the Spanish conquistadors. And one of the things that the Aztec nobility didn't like about them was that they smelt bad.
And what was the cause of that?
Well, lack of hygiene.
Oh, okay. Pretty plain simple.
Wearing heavy-duty armor in a hot, sweaty situation.
Mm-hmm.
The Aztec nobles carried bouquets of flowers to offset this problem.
Wow.
But who stops to think that the dahlia, the marigold, the tigridia were cultivated by the Aztecs simply for the flowers.
Yeah, fascinating.
This stuff is great, Dan. So we're going to carry on with the story of the contribution to horticulture that the native Western Hemisphere native people contributed, right?
That is my thought, and of course it's not limited to plant material.
No.
There's fiber, there's various forms of meat, and another thing is, of course, tobacco.
Oh, that was a good one.
And there are people out there who will say, well, tobacco wasn't a great idea. I mean, look at the problems that tobacco has caused, which is certainly true. On the other hand, consider the billions of dollars that governments around the world have generated taxing tobacco.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. A nice addictive product that you can rake in the money on.
And also, Dan, the tobacco, there was, for many, many years, there was nicotine sulfate. The Black Leaf 40 was a product we used to sell on the market, on the shelf, for an insecticide. And it is an organic insecticide, by the way, but
organic,
it's not a very
super
mild one.
Toxic, yeah.
Very, very toxic.
Well, yes. I always suspected that Burnett's nursery was somehow involved in the black market.
Yeah, we were Black Leaf 40.
Yeah.
Black Leaf 40. Dan, we're out of time, but we really appreciate that. It was a great presentation today, and we're looking forward to hearing more on the same lines as the weeks progress here.
Well, we will work through it, and onward and upward.
You betcha, buddy. And
I'm going to Fintry today. This is the day of the cleanup, preparatory to opening up.
Oh, great, great.
For the season.
Yep.
So,
nice.
We are on the road to normalcy.
And
that's a word.
Yeah, you betcha. And if you have any questions regarding how things are going and what events are coming up and whatnot, go to just email info@fintry.ca.
And that will provide you an answer.
You betcha. Mm-hmm. And Dan, again, welcome to a new decade.
Thank you, I think.
Yeah, okay.
All right, thanks, care. Dan. Take care.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, big happy birthday for Dan. That was a lovely spread that he put out there, too, eh? Mm-hmm. Always does.
Yep.
Lovely,
very
lovely.
Tasty.
He's a man of many talents, and one of them is culinary expertise.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're going to take a short break here. We invite your calls, 250-862-2525 to get through to us. Line them up there, and we will answer your questions when we come back with more AM 1150 Garden Show. Well, we're back again on a sunny Saturday morning, and we've got time to talk to a few people before the break, and then after the break, we've got a whole hour to talk to you. We are inviting Sharon to join us. Good morning, Sharon.
Yeah, good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Couple of questions on thinning my apple and peach trees. I can start doing that anytime?
Yeah, absolutely. Peach is most important, and that we only... let's say right now, how big are the peaches on the tree right now? Are they about the size of a dime or a quarter? Or
a little bit, maybe a little bit bigger than that.
Yeah. So often this is something you'll do it this year, and then next year you can go a little earlier in the season just so that they're small.
Okay.
You know, about the size of a dime or even a bit smaller is a good idea.
Okay.
And the reason is just for sheer volume of product that you're removing from the tree. And then also, when you thin them out, those leftover fruits get quite large quite quickly. But when you're thinning, so I usually go about a little bigger than a pea size, and I look at every little fruit as I'm picking them off, and I try to select the biggest, nicest, roundest ones to leave behind, and I'll leave one peach about every 8 inches or so on the stem on each branch. And then those can size right up beautifully, and we'll just make an absolutely incredible peach. With apples, you still thin them out. You take out all the ones that are sort of smaller, immature, distorted in shape, that sort of thing. So you just keep the best shaped ones. And, you know, maybe 2 or 3 in a cluster sort of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And the water shoots are starting to shoot up. So when's the best time to cut those off? In July?
Well, you don't have to cut them off. You can. It's just it's something that we do more in the ornamental world than we do in the fruit production world. In the fruit production, we want a lot of leaves on the top of the tree to produce a lot of sugar to produce a lot of sweet fruit. And so we're that's the engine of the tree that's filling the fruit with sugar. So we don't mind to have a bunch of the water sprouts growing on the trees. Some can be thinned out to allow a little bit of sunlight through, you know. So a little bit of thinning of those is a good idea. But generally when you do your pruning in the dormant season, that's when you'd remove a bunch of those.
Okay, so it's okay to leave those if I wanted to.
Yeah.
Okay.
I actually do leave them on purpose because I just think of that as all those leaves. That's the engine that's going to produce the sugar for my fruit.
Okay, very helpful. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Good luck with that.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks for the call. That was a very good question because it's timely. It's very timely. And you have to have a little tear in your eye when you're taking off all that fruit.
Well, you know, I feel sorry for the peaches because the peach trees just overproduce.
I know. You're not chosen. You're the chosen ones left on the tree.
That's
you know?
right,
The rest of them, the green bin.
Oh, yeah. And that's where, again, when you're picking them off and they're about pea size, you know, you do the whole tree and you end up with like a half of 5-gallon bucket full. But if you wait for them to triple, well, it literally triples the amount that you have to deal with. So that's my tip, I guess, would be to do it early and really look at them as you're picking them and save the biggest, nicest shaped ones.
Yeah. Well, and now that I don't have a peach tree, I'm waiting for the peaches to come on in the farms. We are buying our peaches now, Ken, simply because I'd like to support the local growers. They're all doing a great job, and also, you know, when I've got a small yard like we have, a peach tree doesn't quite make sense. In fact, interesting how, you know, people moving here from other provinces that don't grow fruit trees, I'm thinking Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, they come here and they get this wide-eyed, brilliant idea of having about 15 peach trees in a regular, not peach trees, but 15 fruit trees. I want a cherry. I want 2 cherries, 3 types of cherries. I want 2 or 3 types of peaches.
Yeah.
And you go to their yard and it's like small, regular, city lot.
Yeah.
No,
when you have larger properties, you can do that, and especially if you have the connection where you actually have somebody, a company that comes in and assists you with the spray programs. It's a little difficult to have all the different all the different types of fruit in one location, but for sure, the cherry trees are the toughest ones. The cherry growers do such a great job of managing their cherries, and you can just go up to Pooley Road there, and you can get yourself a box of cherries, and oh my God, they're so good, and they're properly cared for, and they're sprayed on a proper program, and when you have them in your yard, it's fine, but you have to stay up with that spray program, because you don't want to start introducing all these different species of pests and things into the orchards and whatnot. So we really have to be aware of what we're doing, and there's no problem with doing it. It's great, but you do have to stay up with the spray program.
Yeah, you got to keep up your plant husbandry. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Sure.
The fact is that there's very little now left on the market for controlling things like cherry fruit fly and spotted winged Drosophila and things like that. However, the orchards have this newer products. There's a number of newer products. One is spinosad or spinosad, which is a mating disruptor type of material. So it's really hard for the homeowner to sort of go, quote, organic and stay without, there's work involved. So we're not trying to tell you don't plant peach trees or don't plant fruit trees. But when you do, just remember, you do have a responsibility of keeping those fruit trees clean, and you're not spreading problems around to the local orchardists who are working very hard to keep their trees free of pests and whatnot in a safe manner. Back in the day, Ken, some of the stuff we used to use was just horrendous. That's changed. We really have cleaned up the act. The people, were very concerned over the years about what was going on with sprays and whatnot. And that's why there isn't anything available on the market for the homeowner to use, because the homeowner basically wasn't really educated on how to use this stuff, and the multiplicity of stuff the volumes of stuff going into the environment had to be curtailed, and it did. I mean, I could mention 50 materials that used to be on the market on our shelves in the 60s. Diazinon, chloridane,
lots of them. Goes on and on.
Dichlorobos. I can name 50, and now the section for pest control products is just a tiny little area. But have you seen a lot more bugs? No. In fact, we've talked about the fact of beneficials out there. All that stuff we were spraying was definitely killing a lot of good guys. And
and it's really, the gardens, people who do grow a lot of flowers, and assorted blooming plants really attract a lot of those pollinators and a lot of beneficial insects. And even if they do get some aphids, that's great. Aphids feed the beneficial insects. So, what we used to think was a bad thing is actually a good thing. So, having some bugs on your plants is absolutely normal. I think it's kind of abnormal to not have pests. It's just that some of them in our vegetable gardens and things are a little bit of a frustration. There's no doubt about it.
Maggots and things like that. They're the tough things. But there are ways to overcome that. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, for sure.
I was just talking to a gal that had a brand new landscaping done, and one of her trees, or linden trees, was loaded with leaf roller. And she thought, oh, my goodness. So she phoned me up, and I just went by and had a look at it. It's close by, lives close by. And as I said, these are leaf rollers, and they're not going to kill the tree. The last thing a leaf roller would do is kill your tree. Yeah. I mean, a boring insect, like various things, can kill trees. But leaf rollers will not, and they're food for wasps. The wasps will come in on birds. They love those things. That's what they're there for. Yep. And the tree may be aesthetically affected for a little bit, but really it's not going to be. Yeah,
there's some. I'm seeing a few infestations that are a little bit over the top a little bit this year, more than we've seen in the past. But you get high years and low years,
that's right.
And some years.
You're seeing because this tree was loaded.
Yeah, no, I'm seeing a lot. Yeah.
This tree
like
was
to the
loaded.
point where even like lace leaf maples are almost completely defoliated.
Yeah.
So, we're
BTK.
Yeah, you can use a BT product to curtail them a little bit, but it is what it is. It comes and goes.
Ken, we've got to take a short break for the news at 9 o'clock, and that's what we're going to do. And we got a whole rip-roaring hour of garden show left after that. We'll be happy to come back with more AM 1150 Garden Show. Okay, we're back for a full hour here, 250-862-2525 to get through to us, and Ken and I are here to answer your questions. Ken, I mentioned in my plant of the week that Magnolia grandiflora, Edith Bogue, my evergreen magnolia, is blooming for the first time this year, a little bit early. And the neat thing is it doesn't just all bloom at one time like your regular magnolias, solangianas and stellatas and things like that. It blooms right through the summer.
Yep,
coming on, probably has 3 or 4 blooms on it all the time, right?
Yeah.
And they're big, huge, white blooms, very fragrant. It is evergreen. Now, we call it evergreen, and it is evergreen. It keeps its leaves all through the winter. But it's not as neat and tidy as one might think. Right now, Miss Edith Bogue has a lot of leaves that drop. As the new leaves come on, some of the older leaves drop, but they're big leaves. They're easy to clean up. There's not like a bunch of little tiny leaves. So it's easy to clean up. I'm just saying every tree, no matter how cool it is, has a balance sheet. Yep. Like you take the negatives and the positives, and some have way more negatives than positives. Some have way more positives than negatives. But there is a balance sheet.
There is,
Take London plane trees.
Yep.
What are the negatives?
Fuzzy.
Yeah, fuzzy. And big.
Big and fuzzy.
Way big, too big for a lot of places that they're planted.
Yeah.
Positives, fastest growing tree on the market.
Yep. Pretty much disease. Well, they only get one disease on extremely rainy seasons. Yeah. They get anthracnose.
Anthracnose, yeah.
But that's about it. And it's not common. And the Okanagan doesn't happen hardly at all. No. I have seen it, but
and they can get through it.
Yeah, they're pretty much pest-free. They don't get many bugs.
Right. They don't get bugs.
Occasional leaf roller.
Yeah. And also, another great thing, great shade tree to if you want a fast-growing shade tree, boy, it'll do it. Lots of positives, but there are some negatives too. And I think it's about an equal 50-50 negatives positive on the London plane trees.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they're a really good tree. they're not for a small yard as you've said before because you had one. But they the negatives definitely, a lot of people are quite allergic to the dust that comes off of them. Yeah. It causes many sneezing attacks and
coughing for me.
Coughing, yeah. And the little seed, at least the seeds don't seem to be very viable because you don't see them like shooting up and growing everywhere.
No.
But they certainly produce a lot of seed.
Yeah. But they are a perfect subject. London plane tree is a perfect subject for pollarding. Mm-hmm. We have a neighbor down the road here who pollards his London planes every year, back to the nubs. And so from an arboriculture point of view, you certainly aren't maintaining the integrity of the shape and style or habit of the tree. You are pollarding it. And
but it's the proper technique.
Yeah. But after being in Europe for a couple of times and seeing the London plane trees pollarded in many different ways, the ones in Holland were quite interesting, how they let them grow up, and they had a framework built, a round framework. So they ran the branches out onto this framework, and they took the new growth back to the nubs every year, and so there's no seed because the seed comes on that new growth.
Yep.
And it was in a patio area where public people would sit down and have their meals and whatnot. I think it was actually a restaurant, but it was where public sat and ate the meals. Fabulous. And of course we were there in April, so London plane trees don't leaf out real early, and so they weren't leafed out yet. But I could just imagine looking at them in the season when in the being growing season. Anyway, they're very pollardable, and it's acceptable to do that. The main thing is not to cut into the nub. You let that nub grow, and it's just the new growth that you cut off and bring it back. That's one thing. The one tree. There's other, like for instance, a birch tree. Big negative with birch trees because of the bronze birch borer.
Yeah, they don't survive.
Yeah. They just don't survive, and they're one of the pioneer trees. We call them pioneer trees because in the native state, the natural state, out poplars, birches, and those things. Those are what they call pioneer trees, where they come in first, they live and die, and create the environment for the longer lasting oaks and well, not oaks,
conifers,
maples and conifers such as the ponderosa pines and the Douglas firs.
So their typical life expectancy is 50 to 80 years, sort of thing, for these short-lived trees, like you say, birches, poplars, and willows.
Willows,
But unfortunately, they never make it that long because of the pest issues. So, and a lot of these trees are all the same. Poplars, same idea. Willows, the willow borers, just get them.
Willow borers,
and the, of course, the birches with the bronze birch borer. So it ruins it because they're such a gorgeous tree.
They are a beautiful tree.
Birch has always been one of my favorite trees, and possibly the first tree I ever learned as a young horticultural person, because they were quite plentiful and they're hardy and all that. Great tree, but is it worth really planting one? I don't think so, unfortunately. It's too bad.
One of my favorite trees. Weeping copper beech.
Oh, yeah.
I'll tell you.
Yep.
And there's one called purple fountain or something.
Yeah, purple fountain's a very slender growing one, straight up and straight down.
Yeah.
Really beautiful
Great.
tree. And lots of aphids on those, but that's
you don't even see them.
You don't see them typically.
They live and die together, and they don't even. It's not something that ravages the tree. They just live underneath the leaves and make them sticky a little bit, but not a bad tree though. So that's the balance sheet you have with not just trees, I suppose. Just about every plant out there has a balance sheet.
Yeah, it's just it doesn't matter so much on the smaller ones.
No.
There's but I actually just count them as attributes because something, let's say it's dormant all summer. Some plants I guess a bleeding heart is a good example. It's one of the best garden plants you can get. Just the thing blooms and blooms and blooms from very early right until about almost till midsummer. But then, they go dormant in the summertime. They'll often just disappear completely, especially if they're kept a bit on the dry side. When you hit summer, they're gone. They die back, so you just snip them off. The root sits there till next year, and away it goes again. So that's it. The attribute is, wow, what a great plant, and strong blooming and long-lasting and all that stuff.
Speaking of
for
the
first half of
the regular traditional bleeding heart.
Yeah, and then in the summertime, when they go dormant, you just cut them off.
Yep.
So that's good, too. It's easy. You don't do much with it.
Is that considered a xeriscape plant?
I'm not sure. I've never tried to drought those ones, but I have had them sort of semi-naturalize in quite a dry environment, which is what I typically grow my plants in. They get watered, but not very much.
250-862-2525 to get through to Ken and I today. I'm excited about my Cholla cactus. Yeah. Dan has corrected me. I've called it a cola cactus. It's a Cholla cactus.
Cholla cactus.
It's spelled Cholla. Actually, it's Cholla opuntia. Cholla opuntia. It used to be in the opuntia family, or the opuntia
group, genera.
Yeah, genera.
Yeah,
the opuntia, which is our prickly pear cactus you see on Knox Mountain and up in the hillsides. That tells us we're in a desert climate. We have a native cactus here.
Yeah.
And there's tons of opuntias. There's some opuntias that aren't hardy. Like I have an opuntia that's in my greenhouse, and I put it out in the summer, that isn't hardy. But a lot of opuntias are. I have a collection of opuntias, probably about 8 varieties of opuntias that are that eat species of Opuntias that are hardy, that sit in the pots, and they come through the winter every year, and it's great. It's great. Now, they're vicious. They are vicious. If you look at the spines of an Opuntia cactus or many cactus, it's not just it's not like putting a needle in your. It's got a little teeny tiny little. It's got a little hook on the end.
A fish hook on the end of it.
On the end, and it's there for a reason, because the Opuntia fragilis, it's fragilis. That's how they reproduce. An animal or a human or something will walk past. It'll get caught on them, and it'll drop somewhere else.
Yeah,
and that's how it starts. I mean, my cactus collection that I have, just out of the blue, a cactus will start growing. It's just a little chunk has fallen off on the ground, and it's growing. Yep. But anyway, what I want to tell you about my cholla cactus is that they're blooming.
It's started?
I've got buds coming on. No, they haven't started. They haven't pushed. They haven't opened. I told you I'd call you.
Yep.
But
I'm on the wait list.
I've got tons of blossom coming on these darn things. I'm short 6 because I took a branch with 3 blossoms off my little smaller variety, and then I took a branch with 3 blossoms off my larger variety and gave it to Dan for his birthday.
Yeah,
right.
Very nice.
Thought I'd give him ones with blossoms coming on because they'll open for him and whatever. So I'm 6 short, but I've got quite a few. I bet you I got a dozen on the big one and another dozen on the small one that are coming on into bloom. So I'm excited about that. I've had the large one bloom once for me. This year it's got lots of bloom. So I'm excited.
That's very cool, yeah.
And what a great plant for the Okanagan. I mean, like I say, they're vicious, but they are definitely, if you've got a garden that you want to just maintain as a dry Okanagan garden, and you've got various
in areas where people don't hang out,
and areas where people don't hang out,
or dogs,
areas where you don't want people to hang out.
Yeah,
if you want to guard your yard against pets, animals, people, whatever, children. Sorry, I don't mean we love children, but sometimes they can be a nuisance, and you can guard against those with these things. I was really something. We had a friend of my daughter's brought her little boy by our place one time, and this is before I had my guard barrier up on the cactus garden. And I was in the office, and I heard this scream. I thought somebody'd fallen and cut their arm off or something, and I ran out there, and he'd put his hand into my cactus garden, and he had a Opuntia hanging off the top of his hand. And they not only have that little fish hook, I think there's a little toxin in there, too.
Oh, yeah.
I'm telling you, he was screaming. The last thing he will ever do in life from now on is touch cactus.
Yeah.
He lived. You know, he's still alive, and that's good. But anyway,
it's painful. It's brutal. It's just sad when you see like a dog that just wanders off and mindlessly walks through a bunch of cactus, and then they jump and land on more cactus. It's a sad story. So it's interesting how in areas like, say, in Arizona, where there's a lot of cactus that just live everywhere, the entire forest is a forest for cactus, but yet people, they seem to have this awareness, and it's only people, I think, that come from other places, and they've never been in a cactus forest before, where literally every single thing that's growing
has spines.
Has got spines all over it. I don't know. I don't know how people survive in those climates without. You'd think it'd be a regular thing, like they'd have to have extra hospitals set up.
Yeah, I know. We're going to have to take a short break, but Dan Bruce said that cactus are a North America and South America, Western Hemisphere thing. You don't find cactus in Africa growing naturally, even on the Sahara Desert. There's no such thing as
different
cactus.
Species. They're usually euphorbias, is what they are.
Euphorbias over there. 250-862-2525 to get through to Ken and I today. It's a beautiful Saturday morning. I'm sure everyone is out in the garden today, and we'll be back with more AM 1150 Garden Show. We're back for another rip-roaring section of Garden Show. We love being here. Ken and I chat in our breaks about gardening. Hello, that's what we do. We chat about gardening. But Amber, our dear person on the board here that answers the calls, has asked us a question too, in regards to propagation and when is something ready to actually pot up. Now, Amber, you have the pothos growing, and is what you got it in water? It's in water. Now, a lot of folks do that. They root things in water, and when they do transplant them into soil, as soon as they show some roots, of course, that's when they can put them into the soil. You want to really moisten the soil well, because the transition from the water environment right to the soil environment can be quite traumatic for a plant. However, pothos are so darned easy to root. They're one of the easier things to root. Some things are easy, some things aren't so easy. Pothos is one of the easier ones. Mm-hmm. So as long, you don't even have to root them in water. You can just directly stick them into some nice, clean potting soil and stick the cuttings in there. And always don't be greedy. Don't make huge, big cuttings. Make small little cuttings. They root much better than big, huge cuttings. And so you could probably start potting those up right away. And
there you go. Yeah, the pothos are really, really a good plant because they seem to survive on almost all conditions, and with or without much water. They seem like once they start to get established, they don't mind to go quite dry between waterings. And I think we should call them like a devil's ivy or something.
Yeah, that's a common name. Devil's
right?
ivy.
Yeah.
But Ken, they are so interesting. Now this plant that we have in our household here, we potted into this tiny little container. It's in the shape of a piano, and it hangs on a brass sort of fixture, and it's hanging on our wall. We've had it there since we were married, and Dawn and I now have been married for 48 years. Pretty soon, 50 years coming up. Anyway, the pothos that we planted in that little thing is the same plant that was planted almost 50 years ago in this little container. And we just keep cutting it off because it grows, and cut it off, and we water it, when it looks dry, and feed it once in a while and whatnot. What a resilient plant. I mean, it's been there all those years. And actually what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to take a picture of it and put it on the Kelowna Garden Enthusiasts Facebook page.
Yeah,
and show them that this is a tough plant. I think people will be quite interested in it. Yeah,
they're almost like an air plant the way they grow over time. It's almost like they're not reliant on that little bit of soil. They take a lot of what they need right out of the atmosphere.
They've got air roots, very similar to my vanilla orchid that I have planted. I've made a nice mossy stick for it to crawl up, and it's adhering to that already. It's really quite happy.
Yeah, I love those plants.
Yep.
Epipremnum aureum.
That's what pothos is. Yeah. The orchid, the vanilla orchid. I'm not sure exactly what the proper name for it is, but I'm okay with vanilla orchid. I'm good. I'm good with that. 250-862-2525 to get through to Ken and I today, because we are here to answer your garden questions. I want to mention the Okanagan Master Gardeners Basic Training Course is coming up. It is an exciting course, and exciting for people who really want to take their gardening experience and gardening expertise to another level. And we will be talking about that as time goes on, because that course starts in the fall, in September. And I think it's very, very important that people are aware that that's out there. Gives, like I say, it gives people that ability to go to another level in their gardening experience.
Yeah, I'll also mention that the Okanagan Xeriscape Association's also, they're putting on some xeriscaping classes. I guess these are going to be online, so there'll be probably like a Zoom type of session. But you can go to OXA, you can Google OXA to the Okanagan Xeriscape Association website, and you can register for those classes right now. So, yeah, check that out.
And another public service announcement. I don't know if it's a public service announcement, but we are so excited about our trip to the Chelsea Flower Show. I was talking to a client the other day, and she says, "You've got tickets to Chelsea?" I said, "Yeah, well, we get them through Colette Tours." And well, I've tried 3 years in a row to get tickets, and you can't buy tickets. And so we are honored to be able to say we have tickets to Chelsea. And not only Chelsea, we're going to take the Channel across to France and up to the Netherlands, to Amsterdam, where the Floriade show is happening. And folks, the Floriade show only happens once every 10 years, which is pretty darn cool. We're going to be going to Kensington Palace and the Gardens. We're going to Sissinghurst Gardens in Kent, the Chelsea Flower Show, and take that Eurostar train between London and Amsterdam. And we'll do a canal cruise in Amsterdam.
Nice.
Don and I went on that 2 years ago, and what a fun thing to do, is take a canal cruise in Amsterdam. It's pretty cool. And by that time, that's next May. It's a year from now. Well, a little less than a year from now, but we're going to be making it happen. And I'm sure, I say that with some degree of caution, that the COVID thing will be past history by that time.
Yeah.
And, things are looking pretty good in that regard, I think.
Yeah, starting to go in the right direction.
We're going to take that short break here now, because we will invite your calls, 250-862-2525 to get through to us today. We love to talk to you, and we love to talk gardening. That's what we do every Saturday morning. We've been doing this for many, many Saturday mornings. As a matter of fact, Ken, it's a bit of a special Saturday morning today, because it is now show number 1800. From beginning 1983 we started, and it's now show number 1800.
Wow, so it snuck up on us. I remember back in the spring we were thinking, we should highlight that show, but too busy.
Yeah, too busy. We're very busy, guys. 1800 Saturday mornings since 1983. We're very proud of that, because it's kept going, and it's really the folks that listen and the folks that call in and join the fray that keeps this show going. So we appreciate that very much. But at this time, we're going to take a short break. We'll be back with more AM 1150 Garden Show. Well, we are back with you on the AM 1150 Garden Show, and I look out the window and I go, holy man, I can't wait to get home, get out in the garden and do my thing. I've been potting up some geraniums. I've been, we potted up some little calibrachoa into some pots. Just having fun with that, and also just mucking around in the garden and harvesting some onions. I'll talk about that in a minute. But we've got Louis on the line. Good morning, Louis.
Yeah, good morning, you jolly green giant, green summit giants. Hey, when how you notice it that you get lazy, your dog get lazy?
Yep.
He brings you the car key and not the leash.
There you go. That's a lazy dog, is right.
And how do you notice how you can find out who loves you, your wife or your dog?
I don't know, Louis.
Lock it in a trunk and drive him around for a while, and they'll release the boat, and we'll see who comes to you.
That's right. You're a man of many.
Your wife probably with a tire iron.
Yeah, I know. Or one of your golf clubs.
Hey, I got a problem here. 5 times I saw beets. 5 different places in my garden in a row, and no way that the suckers are coming out. They just do a Houdini. They're just gone.
Yeah, mine too. I've had the same thing, Louis. I gave up. I've got 3 beets.
I have to give up because it costs me so much for seeds.
Yeah, I got 3 beets coming up in a row, a nice long row. So now I've planted more onions in between them.
Yeah, the onions are not too bad. They're okay, but my beets, and then also the, what's his name, the parsley. They didn't want to come out either. They went to China.
Isn't it fascinating, though, Louis, how 1 year is different than the next, eh?
Yeah. And then you got, what's his name, radishes. I mean, in 1 month, a radish should be finished.
Yeah.
They stuck their head out, and that's it, game over. They turn yellow and gone.
Oh, maybe you got some maggots going on there.
I don't think so. There's no maggot there. There is just the chickens, these quails, you know.
Bad luck.
Yeah, no, I got them fixed. I have this netting from the grape netting, you know, these real fine grape nettings.
Okay.
And then I put it over. I bought 3 times. 3 times I bought cucumber plants. 3 times, okay? And then I planted. Next day they're gone. Okay, go back and buy some more. And gone. And now I put that netting over. Now they are cheesed off. They can't get at it.
Yeah, there's these little house sparrows as well that eat off the plants, and that's what's been getting some of my beets and some of the.
Yeah, it's unreal. And then another thing, I bought a bag of seed starter, 1 bag, and then I put it in a little containers, and I planted seeds individually, like pepper and tomato. Well, gee, you won't believe it, but just tiny little stringy little thing comes out. The peppers, I mean, that is just not believable. Very stringy, like if you had a yarn, you know, with 2 leaves on, you know.
Wow.
And I got a feeling that this soil, what they sold it to me, that is too powerful.
Is that what it was? Is chicken manure soil?
I don't know what kind of manure they had it in there, because that is a compost enriched with sand or soil or whatever. Now I turned around. I went to a supplier here in Peachland, and I got me 3 yards of this compost and mixed with soil. Well, I tell you, I spread it out. I spread it out in my garden, because my garden is not the richest, whatever. So I spread it out. I planted the cucumbers. They're good. I planted the squash, zucchini. They are good. But everything else just stays. You don't want to move. And another thing, I mean, you have the irrigation on, you give him water, that water just doesn't go down. It is like a sponge. It takes up the water, and below it don't reach the roots. So it's strange. And you know what? I have something to pick with you, because I wish I had your picture. I could hang it in my living room, because you are the person who keep me telling us it's relaxing. Gardening is relaxing. Well, my friend, I never was so excited in my life than this year. Aggravated.
We look forward to your calls, Louis. That's great. You're a great guy. We appreciate it.
Well, anyway, I hope everything turns out okay. Which survives.
Well, a character like you, I'm sure the gardening gods will be kind to you, Louis.
Yeah, I hope so, because I deserve it.
Yeah, I know you do. Okay. Thank you, buddy.
You guys have a good day, eh?
You as well.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Thanks for
Appreciate
the call. Bye-bye.
And we're going to talk to Addie, our good friend Addie. How are you doing?
Good morning, guys. I'm fine. How are you guys?
We're well,
good.
thanks.
Thank you.
I have got marmots in our area, and nothing seems to kill them. What can we, kill them. I shouldn't say kill, that's a bad word. But anyway, get rid of them. Yeah. Is there anything you can suggest?
It's a trap and release program, but, I think what happens is people trap them, and then they take them and release them somewhere else, and then they become a problem over there. And then the same people over there are trapping, and they take them back and release them in the other place. And so they get distributed throughout the valley pretty easily. So it's a trap.
So there's really no easy way of getting rid of them.
Well, if you get Bill to get himself a pellet gun, and you can knock them off, and he can make a fur coat out of them.
It would take a lot of those bloody little things to make.
No, I don't know, Addie. They are a nuisance, aren't they? Now, somebody said to me that if you bury wine bottles in the ground, so the top of the wine bottle sticking out of the ground, the wind going across there bothers the marmots and they leave. Now, I don't know if that's going to work, but I did see that it was on the internet, so
But
it's got to be
how are you
true.
going to get all those wine bottles empty, though?
It's got to be true. Well, I'm sure
like
Addie could empty those bottles.
Easily, quite easily. Not a problem. Not a problem. The other question I have is I got some begonias in 3 1/4-inch square pots. I was going to plant them into like a round little 5-inch round containers, and then I discovered there was no hole at the bottom. Is it still okay to plant it in there, or should I somehow try to make a hole? These are metal.
They're metal. No, you got to drill a hole in them, Addie. You can't plant things in pots without holes in the bottom. You got to have a hole.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll just rot. It'll get root rot.
Okay. My hibiscus, my kids gave me a big hibiscus plant for Mother's Day, and it says it can't be outside unless it's plus 10. I have been baking it in and out of the house. Once it's been sort of out for a few nights, where it's been 11 and 12, can it stay outside when it's when it's plus 5 and 6?
Oh, sure. I've had ours. So, yeah, they're pretty tough in that way.
Yep.
They love it when it warms up in the daytime. But Ken's always said it's not how long or how cold it gets; it's how long it stays cold. And in the case of the 5 above zero, plus 5 Celsius hibiscus. If it was plus 5 Celsius for day after day after day and it never warmed up or whatever, yeah, it could be an issue. They'd probably suffer, but not just overnight.
Oh, okay. Well, that's great because that pot's getting a little heavy to cart in and out of the house.
Yeah. Well, you can't freeze them, of course, but it's not going to freeze now.
No, it should be.
I dreamt the other night it froze. The other night it froze, and I went outside, and all my tropicals were dead. I had It was a nightmare.
I was just going to say that's a nightmare. That's not a dream. That's a nightmare.
Not fun.
Oh, it was 2 degrees the other night. So
thanks a lot, guys. Have a nice weekend.
You betcha.
Addie, thanks for calling.
Take care.
Yeah.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now. Yeah. Well, you know what we're going to do? Oh, we got another caller on the line, so we're going to go there, and that is Bruce. Good morning, Bruce.
Good morning, Don and Ken. I think I might have a solution for Addie's marmots.
Oh, good.
A few years ago, I ran into a gentleman who said he had them living under his back porch veranda. Now, apparently, Buckerfield has, I believe it's an artificial coyote urine.
Oh.
You spread that around, and they won't go anywhere near it.
I'm glad you say it artificial because I have no idea how they'd collect the real stuff.
No, I don't want to know how they get it either.
Yeah, so that's good for marmots, or not good for marmots. They don't like it.
Yeah. Any rodents like that, being coyotes' natural enemies.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Enemies.
Now, does it leave any kind of an odor that we don't like, or is it?
That I couldn't tell you. I've never experienced it myself. I only get this secondhand. So apparently it worked very well for him, and hopefully they still have it.
Yeah.
Bruce, that's great information, and we really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
There you go, Addie. Thanks very much, Bruce. Take care.
There you go, Addie. I hope you're listening. We're going to take a slightly early break because there isn't any callers, but we do invite your calls 250-862-2525 to get through to us, and we'll be back with 15 minutes more of the AM 1150 Garden. Well, Ken and I are talking about onions regarding, like, on the Stoke seed catalog. When I bought my little green onions, they were very adamant that you had to wait until later to miss that first hatch of fly.
Oh, yeah, the onion maggot fly.
Onion maggot fly.
Yeah.
Wait that's one of the ways you can help avoid that onion maggot problem is wait to plant your onions later in the season.
Mm-hmm.
I harvested, Ken. As a matter of fact, I think I'm going to put it on my Facebook page. My little onion crop didn't have a lot of seed left from last year. It was last year's seed, and I planted them out, and it came up delicious little tiny green onions. The tops, I chop the tops up and use for onion and on your mashed potatoes. You got your onion bits and bacon bits and onions. And
I like to put a little bit of mashed potatoes like on my onions.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
But not too much. I don't want to ruin the flavor.
It's like my dear friend Charlie Hodge's mom, right?
Mm-hmm.
She was a beautiful gal, had so much going for her. But I'm telling you, she liked a little coffee in her sugar.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, her cup, after she'd finished drinking her cup of coffee, would have half an inch of sugar laying in the bottom of the cup.
It wouldn't dissolve.
I said to her, Doris, that sugar was wasted because you didn't need all that sugar because, I got to have that sugar. Okay, well, you didn't use it because it's still sitting in the bottom of the cup.
It's good for the next one, though.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, man. Well, that's the way things go, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, so you got some business to do after the garden show. Today, I don't have any appointments. I don't have any consults. I don't have any.
Now you're officially retired, Don. You don't have to
I know.
work
Well,
on
I got
Saturday?
that. I got that. What is it? How much money have I got coming in here? $17,300,000 United States dollar left behind the client. And I'm getting that because I'm going to contact him. I'm going to give him my MasterCard, and he's going to put that into my MasterCard account.
There you go.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Can you imagine? I just don't believe people actually do that. Anyway, I want to talk. I did talk about already. You mentioned the trip to Chelsea.
Yep.
We're going to Chelsea next year, a year from now. And it's Marlin Travel. You want to talk to Marlin Travel about that? And ask for Gail. Phone Marlin Travel and ask for Gail, and we talk about that trip. It's going to be a great one. We sure had fun the last time I went to Chelsea. It's like Seattle on steroids is what it is.
Oh yeah,
yeah. And also, thank you for the folks that called today. A lot of folks are still out in the garden right now because it's a beautiful day for that. But we've got Nick on the line. Good morning, Nick.
Hello, Don.
Good morning.
Hey, how are you?
Not too bad.
This is Nick from Karen's Florist.
Just the one.
I love it, Nick.
The marmot problem, if the person takes the neighbor's dog's droppings and put that in the vicinity where the marmots are, they might discourage them.
Oh.
What, neighbor's dog droppings?
Yeah.
Oh, it can't be your dog droppings. It has to be the neighbor's.
No, I don't have a dog.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean.
Maybe you have a neighbor who's got a dog.
I got you, yeah. So, there's something to do with the doggy doo-doos, eh?
That's right.
Yeah. So marmots just don't like having any sign of canines around.
That's right. They're all in the same family, the canines.
Yeah, so, coyote urine or doggy doo-doos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So how are you making out, Nick?
Not too bad. I got another question for you.
Yep, okay.
How did they arrive at the number 7 when you take your acidity samples from your soil? How did they arrive at 7, not 0?
It's the hydrogen ion that the pH is all to do with. I can't get any more answer than that. Ken, do you have the scientific answer why 7 is neutral?
It's neutral, yeah. 0 would be extremely acidic, and 14 is the reach of it on the higher end, which is extremely alkaline. So 7 is the middle point. That's the neutral point where it's neither acidic or alkaline. It's sort of a balanced, what they call it. Buffered is one of the terms they use.
Yeah, I'm just wondering how did they arrive at number 7? Is that using?
Yeah, a scale of 1 to 14. Yeah, that's an interesting question. Yeah, if they came up with that.
And how do they arrive at 12 inches in a foot?
That's a tougher question. It's like somebody must have got paid off on that one.
Yeah. Well, it is an interesting study. I mean, pH is quite an interesting area of horticulture, and we will maybe get a little bit more information on that and how that works and why 7 is the neutral number, how they arrived at 7. Ken and I are both stumped. We're not scientists, but trust you, Nick, to give us a question we can't answer. I remember years ago, you and I were talking ginseng.
Yes.
What happened to that market? Is the same thing going to happen to the cannabis market?
I think so, because apparently it was going exported to Hong Kong, and they've distributed from Hong Kong into China, and the people distributing the ginseng didn't come back and pay the suppliers.
Oh, that's what happened.
A lot of it, because it was supposed to be illegal to import ginseng outside of the proper channels.
Oh.
Yeah, because I know there was a huge movement a number of years ago, people planting ginseng, lots of different people planting ginseng. And all of a sudden, these ginseng places just kind of folded up and didn't happen anymore. So,
yeah.
Interesting.
It is interesting, and I think myself, just out of the blue, I think the cannabis situation is going to be a similar thing.
You never know.
Who knows? I mean,
you never know.
Yeah. Nick, always a great time to talk. We got to get together now that this COVID thing is kind of coming to an end. We got to get together. I'll have you over for a nice visit in my garden, and we'll chat old days. How's that?
It was great.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Give me a call sometime.
Okay, Rob.
Okay, Nick.
Right on.
You betcha. Take care, bud.
Thanks for calling.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Nick was one of our cohorts in the floral industry. Had Karen's Florist.
Yeah, absolutely.
Karen's. Back then, there was Karen's, the Garden Gate, the Bloomers, and us, and that was about it.
Yeah.
That was about it. Back in the old days, Karen, olden days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'm allowed to talk about the olden days now because
you're approaching oldism.
I'm oldism. I've got the oldisms going on.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't mind. I'm glad to be here, and we'll see. So Nick was asking about pH and what pH is.
The power of hydrogen.
Yeah, it's the power of there's a hydrogen ion, something to do with a hydrogen ion. Simple definition of pH. pH is a measure of how acidic basic water is. The range goes from 0 to 14, with 7 being neutral. pH of less than 7 indicates acidity, whereas pH of greater than 7 indicates a base or alkaline. It's really a measure of the relative amount of free hydrogen and hydrogen ions or hydroxyl ions in the water.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. That's an explanation. It's very important, but I'll tell you, people put a little bit more emphasis on, getting soil tested and things like that. I've always said, look, for a homeowner, to figure out how much nitrogen you got in the soil, how much. If you use a general fertilizer or general source of nutrients, that's about okay in homeowners. Now, if you're planting acreages of stuff and you're doing it commercially, you kind of want to know a little bit more what's going on.
Exactly what's going on.
But for the homeowner, you just want to use a general fertilizer. You can pretty well tell when things are starving.
Yep.
Or, things are over too much salt.
And the difference between us here in the desert environment where our soils are very alkaline and coastal areas where it rains a lot where the soils are very acidic. And it's just different wherever you go. So I always say to check in with your local garden centers because they should know what's going on in your local community. So wherever you live, that's where you want to go down and talk to people and find out what's going on with your soil pH and what you have in your community. If you don't know, you want to find out because that's the whole thing. In Vancouver, they sell lime to everybody. You put lime in everything. Whereas here, our soil is lime.
I know.
We're at the opposite end. So we have to actually apply sulfur often, or pelletize sulfur, to acidify our soils, to bring it back down towards that 7. It's interesting.
Folks that just moved from Vancouver, take note of what Ken just said because that's important. Don't be splashing around the lime like you do down at the coast. It's not done here. That's just not necessary. Oh, a few cases it is, but very few.
Very few, yeah.
Okay, we're going to, we now have to give our tips and plants of the week and get the heck out of here, Ken.
You betcha, Don.
It's time to get the heck out of here. My tip of the week this week is I'm now noticing some mildew showing up on a few of our roses, so I think copper spray is in order. My plant of the week is my Magnolia grandiflora Edith Bogue. I mean, my magnificent magnolia is just an amazing tree, and that's my plant of the week.
Very nice. I also have a tip and a plant. And for show 1800, my special tip is just always note that the duration that your irrigation runs equals the depth at which you are watering. So if you're not sure of that, you might want to just dig a little hole and check and see after the water runs to see how deep you're watering. And try to just nail it exactly to the depth of the roots where it's adequate for one watering, so you're not watering too much or too little, because both of those can be a waste of water. All right, my plant of the week is the Geranium magnificum, which is a magnificent geranium. And when we say geraniums, we mean the perennial garden geraniums. There are thousands of those available, different types and sizes and colors. I just like this particular one. It's my favorite geranium. I just happen to have one growing in my front yard. I didn't even plant it. It just showed up one day.
Perfect.
But beautiful plant, easy to grow. And that's my tips and plants for this week. Remember to check growercoach.com.
Thanks, Ken. And my Shago quote of the week is a good one this week.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to this. One of the greatest pleasures in life is knowing just a little bit about the way things work.
Yep.
Think about that. And on that note, we're going to say goodbye.
Science.
We'll see you next week with more AM 1150 Garden Show.